It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Geno Jones here. It is time for the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show. I'm him, this guy right here. All right. It's Friday. We made it to another weekend. Got through another week. We got a brand new president, a real president, and a real vice president. Congratulations once again to President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Vice President Kamala, like comma. Put some respect on this sister's name. Put some respect on Madam Vice President's name, Vice President Kamala Devi, D-E-V-I. That is her middle name. Kamala Devi Harris, our first woman, our first black woman, our first Asian American. Her mom was an immigrant from India, vice president. So we've made history. Today I want to dedicate the show to a man who is an American icon. And he got fame and notoriety as being one of the greatest baseball players of all time, a huge civil rights activist in a quiet way, but a very dignified, respectful, and principled way. He was known as the Hammer. This is personal for me because baseball was my first love. My grandfather, who I talk about all the time, you hear me talking about Conway Jones, introduced me to the game. And even though my favorite player was and still is Willie Mays, the greatest all-around player in the history of baseball, this man is right there with him and next to him. And my mother reminded me that my grandfather loved Hank Aaron. Yes, we lost Henry Louis Aaron. Hank Aaron today, he died in his sleep, resting, according to his family. All reports he was 86, 2 weeks away from a birthday. He was going to turn 87 in a couple of weeks. Okay, for those non-baseball fans, just indulge me, a point of privilege here. 755 home runs. For 33 years, that was the home run record. Now, he broke the record of an American icon who was a sports figure, but who was bigger than sports and bigger than life. He was like one of the genuine all-time American icons that transcended sports, Babe Ruth. And Hank Aaron broke that record in 1974 on April 8th, and Hank Aaron received death threats and hate mail. As a matter of fact, he received over 3,000 letters, hate mail, 3,000 letters a day for years. Hate mail, death threats, over 3,000 a day. The FBI assigned security to Hank Aaron, not just to Hank Aaron, but his family, because people wanted to kill Hank Aaron and kill his family, his wife Billy, and their children, because Hank Aaron was just displaying black excellence and just excellence as the human. So he hit 755 home runs. That was the major league record in baseball for 33 years until he was passed in 2007 by Barry Bonds. Many people still consider Hank Aaron the home run king of all time. Hank Aaron, he led the major leagues in runs batted in, 2,297. He was third all-time in hits in baseball behind Pete Rose and Ty Cobb, 3,771 hits. He was the most valuable player in 1957. He was a two-time batting champion. He was a three-time Gold Glove winner. That means he was great defensively as a fielder, one of the most underrated fielders, one of the greatest right fielders in the history of baseball. He actually led the league, I believe, in 1963 in stolen bases. He had over 30 stolen bases. 21 All-Star seasons in his 23-year career. The only time he wasn't in the All-Star game was his first and last year in baseball. As a matter of fact, he appeared in 25 All-Star games. I guess there was a time, I believe, in the 50s to where Major League played 2 All-Star games. So Hank Aaron played in a record 25 All-Star games. Before that, as an 18-year-old from Mobile, Alabama, Hank Aaron played a season for the Indianapolis Clowns in the Negro League. And when Hank Aaron was called up, when he basically was offered a contract by the Milwaukee Braves, there's an interesting story. I'm going to tell you who replaced Hank Aaron. It's an interesting story. But what I want to bring on now, I want to bring on a sports broadcasting icon. He's been a guest of mine before. He's done play-by-play for all your major networks, from ESPN to Fox Sports, Fox Sports, I should say, and BET, and he's been a local icon doing sports up in the New England area. Eric Clemens, ladies and gentlemen, is my special guest. I don't want to waste any more time. I want to bring him to the Geno Jones Show. Eric, my brother, how you doing, man? Let me see. Do I have you? Are you muted? I think, you know what? I did have you mute yourself, so you can unmute yourself now. That's still. No, hold on.
Hear me?
There you go. All right, now.
All right.
That last one was on me. You muted yourself,
okay.
And I muted you.
I was double muted. Usually you need that to shut me up. So
no, that sounds more like me. Hey, listen, man. First of all, thank you. I said it off camera, and I meant it. Thank you so much, man. Someone, because I can imagine your phone has been blowing up.
It's been ringing.
Yeah, do TV and radio hits. So for you to take the time out to join an old college buddy and help me amplify my platform, I am forever grateful. I am forever grateful and indebted to you, my brother. So that's just real talk. So y'all can say it's corny or whatever, but I don't give a damn. It's my show. I can do it the way I want to do it.
There you go.
But
no, anytime, man. Anytime, man. Happy New Year to you. I think it's the first time we've officially been face to face, if you will, since the new year. Of course, we could be getting together under a happier time.
Right.
A true icon. As much as I admired Hank, I didn't get to meet him until summer of 2019 when I was putting together a documentary on the incredible story and the baseball factory that was Mobile, Alabama.
Yes.
Where I began my television sports broadcast career.
Wow.
And I went to the store, and a young brother was there, and the brother looked at me and said, "You the guy from TV." I was younger and finer back then and skinnier. But I said, "Yeah, man, well, thanks for watching. I appreciate you." He said, "I bet you our team could beat your team in baseball." I said, "I'm from Chicago. I'm sure we could put together a pretty good team." He said, "Well, let's start with Hank Aaron in left field." I'm like, now this is the 80s. Ain't no Google. Ain't no.
Right.
So, you do a little, but when we got out of college and stuff, you went where the jobs were. You didn't do a whole study on the city you were moving to.
Right.
So I'm going, dude, Hank Aaron's from here? Now, and he said, absolutely. He said, "I'm going to put Billy Williams in right field."
You were like,
I said, "No, you're not going to put my all-time favorite icon player growing up in right field. You're not going to sit here and tell me Billy Williams is from here too." He said, "Yeah, I absolutely am." He said, "I'm going to put Cleon Jones and Amos Otis, and they're going to rotate." I said, "What?" And he kept going on, and "I'm going to put Ozzie Smith as short. I'm going to put Willie McCovey at first. I'm going to really get you. And then on the mound, I got something for you. I'm going to put Satchel Paige on the mound."
Wait a minute.
I said,
Stop.
"Get out of here."
I got to stop you. First of all, Ozzie Smith, I didn't know Ozzie Smith was from Mobile.
Ozzie Smith was born in Mobile, so we claim him.
Wow.
Now, he left Mobile. His family left Mobile when he was 6.
Okay.
So he hadn't gotten the Mobile water and the juice in his veins yet. I guess not all of it, but
well, he got something. He may not have got it. He may not have got it on offense, but he definitely got it on defense. No doubt about it.
He's one of the greatest defensive players in any position I've ever seen. I mean, and
And
and the
arguably,
flip coming out.
yeah,
Yeah,
arguably,
yeah.
arguably the
Yeah.
greatest defensive shortstop because he played shortstop.
Yes,
Yeah,
shortstop.
yeah,
Yes,
ever.
yes. But anyway,
Now
those
wait,
guys and
but
more
I got to
from
stop you
Mobile.
again though, because
Hmm.
you almost knocked me down when you told me that Ozzie Smith was from Mobile, but
Hmm.
I really got the Ali combination when you said Satchel Paige was from Mobile too.
Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige started it
Wow,
all. He was the one. Somebody
wow.
described him as Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan. I mean, this dude, if you could imagine, this dude, he was pretty rich because he pitched wherever they pay him to pitch. So, he pitched Negro League, then he'd go get his barnstorming teams, and he'd go down to Mexico, and he'd go out to Cuba, and he'd go here, and he'd go there.
Wow.
And he was always loaded because, he grew up so poor. And so but he wasn't loose. He knew who he was, and he knew what he represented. And I wonder
Now is this
how great
Satchel? This
he
is
would have
Satchel
been.
Paige you're talking about right now.
This is Satchel Paige I'm
Okay.
talking about. I wonder how great he would have been
Oh my
had
God.
he been able to play Major League Baseball or in front of most of the folks and pitch
Yeah.
against what was then considered the major competition of the time. Remember now, he doesn't break into the major leagues until 1948. He's 42 years
Right.
old,
Yes.
they say,
They
when
say
he breaks in. He could have been 45 or 6,
Yeah,
we don't know.
I know. I heard the same
And
thing.
he's still bringing the fastball at 92, 93 miles an hour. Can you imagine
Wow.
when he was 28, how he was
Jeez.
bringing the fastball?
Mm.
And the guy still had pinpoint control. But anyway, he started the whole train, and this train lasted through Hank Aaron and Willie McCovey and Billy Williams and all these guys that just came out of this area despite the racism, despite
Yeah.
the oppression, despite all of it. And they still found a way to continue their baseball careers. And to meet Hank summer of 2019 was absolutely delightful. All I can say is he was just a very, very decent man. He just, he was checking me out now because again, he's going to be a little bit leery. He don't know me from Adam. And just a couple
Right.
of correspondence by phone, he's looking at me, making sure I'm not going to come out of my crazy bag on him or something. And, put a certain hat on and go, yeah, I finally get a chance to kill him or whatever.
Right.
So, but once he realized that I was really there for what I said I was there for, which was to talk to him about growing up Mobile and some of the things he went through and some of the things he remembers, and about a little game that they played, that the poor kids played, and mostly the poor Black kids, where they get bottle tops
Right.
and make them out of baseballs, and broom handles were the bats.
Wasn't it tops and rocks?
Yeah,
They would do
rocks,
with bottle tops and rocks.
bicycle pieces of tires. You can understand why rocks would be a little dangerous,
Right.
so you stay away from those, but mostly tops. And they would spin those tops, and now that game has made it all the way to the Dominican Republic. Many of the poor kids play, but they don't play with bottle tops. They play with the tops that go in the big jugs of water.
Oh
And
yeah.
you take the tops off the jugs of water, and those things might as well be a Frisbee.
Right.
And you flick those things. But all of those things, every player, including Mr. Aaron that I ran into, swore by that game.
Yeah.
Swore by it, and swore that it helped them develop a hand-eye coordination. Ozzie didn't grow up in Mobile. He didn't know tops, probably.
You're right.
But all those other guys that grew up in Mobile, they could hit. Yeah. Cleon could hit, Amos could hit, Billy Williams could hit, Willie McCovey could hit, Hank hit, Tommy hit. All of them could hit the ball because all of them came up playing that game. Wow. So it did something. And Frank Bowling and Milt Bowling, his brother, who were solid players in their own right. So I'm sitting there on a goal line. I spent 3 years in Mobile cutting my teeth without having a clue how many guys came up through there. All the summers I spent trying to dig up a story to do a feature on, I could have been I could have had features so much in the can
You were
with all
sitting.
these guys, but
You were sitting on a gold mine. Not to cut you off.
I was
You were
sitting
sitting
on
on
a
a gold
gold
mine.
mine and didn't know because, again, there was no way to know. Also, being big city people like we are, you and I, both Chicago, South Side, we came up seeing people make it and leave.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I figure, well, they might be from Mobile, but they don't come back. They don't ever come back here and visit or anything. Well, boy, was I wrong. Hank was at home all the time. Billy Williams at home all the time. Cleon, all these guys, they couldn't wait to come back home. Tommy Agee, I forgot to mention him, also from Mobile. And the list goes on and on. Those guys were home all the time. The only one that didn't come back was Willie McCovey. Willie, the racism, the hatred, it really did something to him. And some people can take it and some people can't.
Yeah.
And he went out to San Francisco. They loved him. I mean, absolutely loved him out there. What in the heck would you come back to Mobile for when they wouldn't even give you a job? You know, back in the day, Gene, the players used to work at car dealerships and they just greet people and sign autographs. And if they wanted a car, I'm sure the player would get a cut, because they weren't making $10 million a month back then.
Nowhere close.
Nowhere close. But they didn't even do that for Willie and some of the other guys. And Willie, when he got out there to San Francisco and saw, how people treated them, or when Hank got out to Atlanta and Billy got to Chicago and all that, and saw how people revered them there, they stayed grounded. They knew where they were from, but it's hard to leave when people actually admire you and give you the attention that you deserve. And I remember putting together the documentary and talking to Frank Bowling, who passed away last July.
For those who may not know, and what's the connection to Hank Aaron? Who is Frank Bowling?
Frank Bowling was a former Aaron teammate. Frank, probably 2-3 years older than Hank, but they grew up in the same town, playing the same Tops games, because Frank grew up poor too. However, they wouldn't even meet until they got to the big leagues.
Okay.
And Hank Aaron is a teammate of Frank Bowling's. Frank Bowling has a brother, Milt Bowling. They're both solid players.
Was that the Milwaukee Braves?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
The Braves. That he was a teammate of Hank's, and he says he retires, and they notice that Hank is creeping up on Babe's record, and he told me for the documentary, he said, I mentioned to the chamber and the folks that, like, we ought to put a big billboard or something up and count down, and they were like, I don't know whether we need to do that. This is the most iconic record at the time in sports history. And you don't know whether your own native son should have a sign up and, with his picture going, Hank's 2 away, Hank's 1 away. No, they never did it.
And that was the city that was hesitant and reluctant to do this.
Yeah,
the city of Mobile,
absolutely.
Alabama.
Because, in 1974, it's 1974. We're not that far out of the civil rights movement. We're not that far. Now, Mobile, to its credit, despite being deep South, was not as iconic for racial hatred as some other cities in Alabama. Birmingham, Montgomery. Mobile was able to kind of escape that. Certainly one of the last hangings in the United States was there in Mobile.
Lynchings.
But
really?
For the most part, one of the last lynchings. For the most part, it was able to kind of smooth that stuff over. It was still the Deep South, believe me. I went there in the 80s and still got some stuff. So, but they didn't quite have the kind of unrest. I don't know if Dr. King ever came to Mobile.
Never heard of him.
I don't think he did.
He may have, but I never heard of it. Yeah.
I couldn't find it. I could be wrong. Somebody, Mobilians out there.
Yeah. Maybe younger in his career,
Straighten
probably
me out
spoke.
if I'm wrong,
He probably spoke.
But basically, those guys all love Mobile because it's home. Wherever mom is, wherever dad is, that's home. And whatever flaws it has, it's still home. So Hank told me once it was an all-star game, and he played like the first 3 or 4 innings. And he said, I got taken out of the game, and he flew home to Mobile and watched the 9th inning at home with his mother and father.
Really? Now, when you say, what you talking about, Major League All-Star game?
Major League All-Star game. And he left the All-Star game, which was nearby, might have been in Houston or Atlanta that year or wherever. He flew home.
Do you remember, did he say what year that was? I'm curious.
Oh, he might have said the year. I don't think he did, but
okay. Wow. Well, it was a lot.
It was just really funny.
He played in 25.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's a guy, talk about a lesson in consistency and persistence. Yeah. He averaged 33 home runs for 19 years in a row.
Wow.
Now, you might think you something if you hit 30 home runs for 20 years in a row. You're still 155 short of his mark. If you hit 30 homers for 20 years in a row, 30. And that's considered pretty solid.
Right.
By today's standards.
For 20 years. To average that over 20 years. You may hit 60 and 55, but then later on in your career, you hitting 10 and 15 and 20.
He's just bing, 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 bing. And so, putting the documentary together and meeting an icon, and I could barely get my questions out, man. I had to really pull it in and not be a fan and just try to talk coherently.
That had to be hard. Well, let me ask you, because I know you got some great stories. I want you to share them, but let's try to do this in a chronological order. Let's talk about his youth, because the reason I want you to do that, because when you get to when he left Mobile at 18, I guess his mom and dad put him on a bus. I want you to stop there, because when we talk about the Indianapolis Clowns, there's a very interesting fact that I just learned from a friend of mine, Bruce Gage, who is my wardrobe consultant for the show, and he's also a Negro League aficionado. As a matter of fact, he's one of the few vendors in the world that's a licensed vendor to carry the officially licensed Negro League gears. It's got a line called Fly Ball. So why don't you start off? What did Hank say to you? What did Mr. Aaron say to you? What was it like outside of playing the game with bottle tops? What was it like growing up in Mobile?
They just, if you can imagine an environment where baseball's played all the time, that is their thing. That's basically all they did. Everybody, everywhere, Saturday and Sundays in Mobile was filled with baseball. And growing up, Hank, coming up, I should say, played with like the Mobile Black Bears, and he was a second baseman. And Billy Williams told me that, shoot, Hank didn't stand out. He was another guy. So that's how much talent was down there. So nobody in their right mind thought that Hank they didn't think he wouldn't be. They just didn't think it would be all that.
Right. And physically, he was not to cut you off. I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of just add on, because for those who may not be big sports fans like you and I are that's watching, physically, he wasn't an imposing guy. He was around my height. He was 6 feet, so right around 6'1", 180, 180. So it's not like like Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. Not 6'5", 250. Or nothing like that. So he wasn't phically
strong,
imposing.
Forearms and wrists were really.
I heard he had huge hands, hands and big wrists.
He could really whip that bat around and hit that ball. And basically we didn't talk a whole lot about some of the details of youth, because a lot of that was painful.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Not that Hank wouldn't be able to face it. I just didn't want to focus the documentary on it. I wanted to focus it on. And Hank was, he's 85 or 6 when I'm talking to him. So, even though he's fine, the mind goes and comes and things.
No, you're right, because you said 2019. So he died this morning. He was 86. So you're right. So he was 85. But let me go back real quick. The Mobile Black Bears.
Bears.
What team was that? What kind of league was this?
They were a team. Of course, they weren't really affiliated with any major league team at the time. They were just given, a way to give the black talent a chance to play Negro League scouts and stuff would come out and see them. And from what I understand, after some heavy negotiating with his mom, Hank was a mama's boy, by the way, negotiating with his mom, the Clowns were able to sign him. And he told me about that day where you see the famous picture of him at the bus or train station.
Mm-hmm. The train
he said
station.
He had $2, that pair of shoes, one pair of pants, and that was about it. And he said he stretched it. he made it go from here to there. But when the Giants organization signed him, I'm sorry, the Braves organization, the Giants organization was talking to him too.
Really?
And the Giants had signed your favorite player, Willie Mays, but they were coming after Hank too, because this is all free. They could negotiate anybody.
So wait, $50. Stop right there. People need to understand this, and I knew you had some great stories. That's why I can't thank you enough, and thank God that I got you. So there was a chance that Willie Mays and Hank Aaron could have been teammates like year-round, not just an all-star game. And Willie Mays in center field and Hank Aaron in right field. Oh my God! So what happened? Yeah. I'm sorry, I gotta let you.
So the Giants made their offer, and the Braves made an offer that paid Hank $50 a month more than the Giants had offered. Okay. So he took the Braves off.
Well, back then that was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
We're talking about 1952, so that's $600 a year.
Right.
So that's a lot.
That's a lot of money. You could buy you a house with $600 back then. Right. But $50 was the difference in those two guys possibly making the greatest duo.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
For 20
people would have just said, we give up.
Right, and they both had think about it. They both had long careers.
And excellent role models, excellent defensive players, excellent offensive players.
Willie, if people forget this about Willie, let's point this out. It was a year and a half. He served in, I forgot what war it was, but I want to say the Korean.
Korea.
Yeah,
Korea.
But for a year and a half, he served. He went to serve the military, represent the country and serve in the military, and then came back to the major leagues and didn't miss a beat. But can you imagine? Jeez.
No.
In center, Willie Mays batting third, Hank Aaron batting cleanup.
Right.
Willie Mays in center field, Hank Aaron. Oh my God, the Giants they'd have been worse than the Bulls, the Lakers, and Golden State.
They wouldn't,
wow. And then McCovey and Juan Marichal. Jesus. Wow.
Right. Willie McCovey coming later. I remember being physically afraid when I'd see Willie McCovey come to the plate against the Cubs because he was so big. And that little bat looked like a toothpick in his hand. And then he would whip that thing around. And these were just some great stories and Hank being consistent.
Listen, I got it. And that's what now, guys, Eric and I, we have these conversations like this where, there's so many great stories. We stop each other in mid-sentence to share a story. But since you're talking about Willie McCovey, you'll love it, trust me. And I'm sure a lot of people watching that love sports, especially growing up in Chicago. So, of course, Willie McCovey wore number 44. But the story I want to tell you, it's a memory I have. So my grandfather would take me, and I'm going to talk about my grandfather toward the end of the show, because he is the reason that I love baseball. But every summer, my grandfather would because he had retired, so he would take us to all the baseball games. One year, I saw every team in the major leagues, American and National League, play at least one time because, we got the White Sox and Cubs. But I'll never forget this one game, Eric, and I swear, people think I'm making this up. Willie McCovey hit a home run that I swear is, I'm going to go old school like our grandmas or grandfathers would say. I swear for God that that ball landed on the L platform on Addison. It cleared, for those who love baseball, Wrigley Field, they have these, I guess, brownstones, 2 flats, 3 flats. The ball cleared that, and I swear that ball, because you've gone to Wrigley Field like I have. If you look out in Wrigley Field, you'll see the buildings, and right behind that, you can see the L platform
Right.
and the trains going. I swear to God,
Right.
Willie McCovey hit a home run all the way over to the Addison
Wow.
and Clark train stop for
Wow.
CTA.
Well, of course, Willie passed away just before I started shooting the documentary. Now, let me caveat this because Willie probably wouldn't have talked to me anyway. Willie was not to do the long interview type. In fact, if you think about it, when have you ever seen him
Not much.
do anything
Yeah,
like
not
that?
much.
So he was
Very
just
little.
not
Yeah.
that kind of person.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that if I was able to get him on the phone and jog his memory a little bit, because he almost didn't talk to me when he went in the Hall of Fame. We drove all the way up from Mobile to talk to him, and he almost didn't talk to me there because, Mobile, don't talk to Willie McCovey about Mobile, but I
Yeah.
digress.
I understand.
So his brother tells me they used to play at this school up somewhere, a little bit of ways from where they live. And Willie, would crack that ball and he would always hit that thing and break somebody's window. And everybody would scatter and run. And he'd wonder why they were running. And Willie Mackton broke another window pane. So he's been doing that kind of thing for a long time. And Thin Threads, man, Willie McCovey's father was at the very least a very religious man, and at the most he might have been religious, and also he might have been a minister, a pastor of a church, but at least he was a very strictly religious man. He thought all sports were evil because it dealt with gambling.
Oh, wow.
So if it was left up to him, when the Giants people came to get Willie McCovey, the father was like, no, you can't go. This is gambling. You're not going to do it.
Wow.
And the little brother who I spoke to, Clausel, goes and talks his dad and said, Dad, he really wants to do this. And he says his father told him, okay, he can go, but I'm never going to see a game. I'm never going to listen to one. And he never did.
Oh, no.
He was proud of his son, but he stuck to his principles so much that he never saw his son play or never do any of that. And of course, Mom did. And Mom was very instrumental in that. Hey, that deal you signed, it sounds like a pretty good deal. See if you can get a little more money out of him here and there or whatever.
Wow.
But the thin threads, man, of the stories of people and
Right. Wait, now,
Hank talking about his younger brother.
So wait a minute, just to be clear so people can understand. Now, are we talking about Hank Aaron's dad or Willie McCovey's dad that was very religious?
No, I think Hank Aaron's family, was pretty okay with him playing baseball.
This is Willie McCovey's family
But this is Willie McCovey's family, who are the thin thread. You talked about McCovey and the thin thread of him almost
not even playing baseball.
Because those Giants guys were about to leave. They were about to leave the home and tear the contract up or whatever.
Wow.
And according to his brother now, he was able to talk his dad into at least letting Willie go, because Willie wasn't that boisterous. He was a shy guy. He didn't.
A lot like Hank Aaron. Soft-spoken,
he wasn't
humble.
gonna openly defy his parents. Yeah. And if my dad feels this strongly about it, well, I guess I won't be able to play. Yeah. But no, and aren't we glad he did play? I mean, but he was just, these guys were just, they were just something special, and it's a time and a day we'll never see again. Obviously, the numbers of African Americans playing the game has strongly dwindled because in a lot of ways the game has moved to upper middle class, specialized leagues, Nike league, this and this league, and you got to drive them to the suburbs to play in this and playing. And many inner city families or many poor families just simply can't afford that kind of rigorous schedule. They don't have a car. And a lot of kids, I did a story in New Orleans in 2007, and there's a varsity high school baseball game where young men were holding the bats like a little 5-year-old because they'd never picked one up.
Wow.
They'd never played the game of baseball before. Now, you and I, we can't even hold our Chicago card without knowing how to hold the bat and play slow pitch, clincher softball.
Thank you.
Fast pitch, strikeout. We had to know how to play all that.
16-inch clincher. Let me just say this, since you were talking about the major leagues, real quick. This is just my own personal editorial comment, and I've been saying this. I've been on this soapbox for years. one of the main reasons that the major leagues saw such a huge decline in terms of black ball players and your black superstars, because Major League made a business decision, and they're still making a business decision. Yeah, you got your travel teams, but Major League, the money that they could invest and spend on the south side and the west side of Chicago and certain neighborhoods in Atlanta or in Brooklyn or the Bronx or South Central Los Angeles, they take that money, they take it to the Dominican Republic, Latin America, and no disrespect to our Afro-Latino brothers and sisters, I'm complaining about the owners. The owners have done that. You notice, especially in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, baseball is king, because people don't remember baseball was. That's why it's called America's pastime. Baseball was bigger than Just think how big the NFL is and the NBA is. Eric, you can attest to this. Major League Baseball was bigger than the NFL and the NBA is now combined, probably double back in the era when Hank Aaron played.
Right. I mean, and it was so funny. Baseball, for those of you who are younger, I'm not going to say how old we are, but for those of you who are younger out there, baseball was the everyman game, man. Now, you can back me up on this, Geno. You had little fat dudes playing first base. You had regular dudes.
Wait a minute. In my neighborhood, the big fat dude was the catcher.
Yep.
He was the back catcher.
And you had major leaguers that looked like them. Boog Powell playing first base.
Harmon Killebrew. Yeah.
You know, Harmon Killebrew. These were big, kind of rotund guys. Yeah. Willie Horton was a big dude.
Yeah, he was.
And then you had dudes, right? Regular looking guys like Hank Aaron.
Willie Mays.
Hitting these home runs. So the message being sent was anybody could play this game. Now we know that's not true. Now, Geno, you had talent as a young person. I had wishes and dreams. I thought I might be able to play third base one day for the Cubs, but I learned very quickly I did not have the athletic skills.
So you wanted to be Ron Santo.
I wanted to be Ron Santo, Bill Madlock, and all of them. But I did not have the skills, and it just amazed me when you see the hand-eye coordination and all these things that these guys made look so easy. And it wasn't. It's not easy for a rounded bat to hit a rounded ball and to do that consistently, as these guys did and so many other great players did, and Hank Aaron being amongst the greatest of all time.
Let's say this. This is my take, and I'm sure you probably heard it because, I mean, you've worked in the industry and been around the greats. As far as I'm concerned, the hardest feat in sports is to hit a baseball. For me, the hardest feat, harder than shooting a three-pointer or making a pinpoint
I can't think of anything
pass, harder. The hardest on that level, 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Curveballs but see, like you said, and I've been watching Major League Baseball Network all day, and they talked about throwing those bottle tops. It helped them follow. As a matter of fact, I heard an hour ago, Eric, I heard your guy Billy Williams say they played this this game called Tops with the bottle tops. He said, but if you could follow that bottle top, because like you said, it would just curve naturally like a frisbee. He said if you could follow that bottle top and hit that bottle top, then you could hit a curveball. It basically trained them. It trained their hand-eye coordination to be able to, that's just like hitting a bottle top, and it was just easy for them to do.
I have another thing too, and it's a little bone of contention. And you let me know, because you and I get together and we'll go all overtime on your show.
No.
You got other stuff to talk about, I'm sure.
No. Let me say this: the only time limit that we gonna have is if Zoom gets crazy on me like they did the other day.
All right.
So short of that,
so I see
this is a tribute to Hank Aaron.
Right.
So we gonna do it the way we're gonna do it.
I'm seeing ESPN do their thing late morning. I don't turn the TV on in the morning, so I haven't heard them Hanks passed yet, and so my phone starts blowing up, and I turn on ESPN, and they're talking, and they're doing a great tribute, and Tim Kurkjian is on, and he says, Hank Aaron, I don't care what anybody says, Babe Ruth, the greatest baseball player who ever lived, and blah blah blah. And I'm Kurkjian is the man. I love Tim Kurkjian, and he's great, but I was thinking to myself, well, we're not talking about Babe. He died a long time ago. We're talking about Hank Aaron, A, one. B, I'm still trying to figure out how you can have a sport that didn't allow the best players who had melanin in their skin to compete. How you can say somebody who competed on that side of the fence is better than anybody you possibly could have had on the other side of the fence that was kept out. That's all. I'm sure Babe Ruth was outstanding. I'm sure he might have hit Satchel Paige. He might have taken him deep a couple times. But I'm more sure Satchel Paige would have struck his butt out more than a couple of times too. Okay? They would have hit each other. I don't know how many home runs Josh Gibson would have hit had he been in the major leagues. But I imagine, barring injury, he would have been challenging for an all-time record himself.
If I'm correct, help me out because I didn't get a chance to pull the numbers, but I can almost do it off memory. I recall, didn't Josh Gibson hit, I think the number I always heard was like 800, 820, 860 home runs?
Always heard that.
Okay.
But now that Major League Baseball has said that Negro League Baseball was Major League Baseball too, now they got to go by official records, and officially, Josh might not have hit any more than 300.
Oh, really?
Officially in the records.
Oh, okay.
With the records kept.
Oh.
But we all know, and I know some of it is legend, but a lot of it isn't. I mean, this dude, by every account that I've ever heard, everybody that I heard, that dude could flat hit.
He's the greatest hitter.
Hit him.
Yes. All I heard,
far.
the Josh, in terms of a power hitter, was greater than Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Babe Ruth. It's in the Josh Gibson.
And I mean, of course, when a guy hit 755 homers, he's a power hitter. But Geno, he didn't look like a power hitter. No. He just kept, and he joked with me, which I thought was pretty odd. He would say, "Oh, my little ball just barely made it over the left field fence. We had a short porch out there in Atlanta." I'm like, "Mr. Aaron, get out of here." I'm like, hey, you can't hit that many doggone home runs and have them barely go over the fence.
Hey, listen, the rule says if the ball goes over the fence, it doesn't say by how many feet. It doesn't matter if it's 1 foot or 500 feet. Right. If it goes over the fence, it's a home run. Damn it.
Absolutely.
And there were many guys that were bigger and stronger than Hank Aaron that couldn't do what Hank Aaron did at 6 feet and 180 pounds.
It's really amazing. And I think he really relaxed when I recalled a childhood nerd story. I said, I'm coming home from 5th grade or whatever I'm in. I run home because the Cubs are playing the Braves. I want to see you play. I want to see Billy Williams compete against you and all that. And doggone it, if Ken Holtzman isn't throwing a no-hitter, he's got a no-hitter against you guys. And Lord have mercy, here you come. Now, Ken Holtzman has nothing. He's just throwing the ball up there. It's basically batting practice. And I'm going, oh, God, no. Walk him or something. Don't pitch to Hank Aaron in this situation. Well, he did. And Hank Aaron takes a BP something, I guess you might want to call it a fastball, and knocks the living heck out of it. But thank God, the wind's blowing in from left field.
Wow.
So Billy Williams goes back against the ivy. Normally, this ball's probably on the street, but the wind's blowing in. He goes back against the ivy, and then he comes up. And about mid-warning track, he catches it. Hank Aaron, and as God is my witness, Hank Aaron leans forward to me and says, I knocked the shit out of that ball.
Wait a minute. Was this the game that Kenny Holtzman pitched a no-hitter?
He pitched a no-hitter that game.
I remember that.
I remember late in that game, if there's some highlights of it somewhere,
wow.
Hank Aaron knocks the tar out of a ball. I mean, Kenny has nothing left. He's just trying to get through. And I don't know why they just didn't walk Hank or something. Maybe they thought somebody else would hit a home run.
That was my next question. How do you not walk Hank Aaron?
Hank knocked the devil out that ball, and the wind knocked it down. You know how the wind can be at Wrigley Field.
Yes.
You know, the
coming off the lake, it's blowing in. Yes.
Yeah. The wind probably took about 50 home runs from Billy Williams in his career.
No doubt. Easy. Absolutely.
So,
not
and
more.
he looked at me and he said, "You remember that?" I said, "I wasn't there, Hank. I watched it on TV." He says, "But and you know what? I'm not. I think I don't even know if I got to see it on TV. I might have just seen the highlights of it. But anyway, I know he leaned forward and we cracked up after that one because he said he knocked the shit out of that ball. And I said, "Well, we'll give you 756." Also, another interesting thing. He did indeed. There was always a rumor that Hank used to bat cross-handed.
Yes, which is
Well, I
true.
asked him this question, and he did. He did used to bat cross-handed. He did very well. And he said, "Eric, I used to even bat left-handed."
He
And he
wanted to
said,
be a switch hitter, and they
"Right."
said
And
in
he
the
said,
major
"I did
league.
very well. I did very well." And I said, "Well, you just didn't bring that to the big leagues?" He said, "No, didn't bring it to the big leagues. I was doing too well from the right side." And I said, "Yeah, I think you did pretty good from the right side,
Yeah,
Mr. I think you
you
did
did pretty good too.
you know, and he laughed. So we honestly had good laughs.
Wow.
My regret is I wasn't able to confirm whether he actually saw and liked the final product that I produced. I sent him links, I sent him discs, and
Yeah.
Hank wasn't the easiest person to always reach.
Yeah.
I had numbers for him, I had friends' numbers, but over those last weeks, I had wondered if he were sick or something because normally Billy would pick up the phone or somebody or his assistant, and Hank would get on the phone, and then I'd have to remind him, because I'm sure he gets hundreds of people calling
Right.
him for this and that. So I'd have to remind him, "Hey, I'm the documentary guy that you came down to the office to meet." "Oh yeah, yeah, how you doing?" And then he'd say, "I really enjoyed that film or what," but I didn't get to know whether he
Mm.
enjoyed it or not. I hope over the coming weeks that somebody lets me know. Even if he didn't enjoy it, somebody lets me know. So I know I don't see any reason why he wouldn't have enjoyed it,
Right.
but I would really have loved to know. But I was really, really honored to meet him.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the documentary. Then I want to go back
Mhm.
and let's talk about when he was 18 and when he first went to the Negro Leagues. But
Mhm.
so this documentary, is it finished? And if it's finished, where can we go and watch it now? And what's the
Okay,
name of it?
it is finished, and as we speak, I'm finishing up some final stuff with a distributor. I had not intended for this movie to be widely available.
Okay.
My intention was to personally go around like I'm doing with you and present the movie to small groups and
Hmm.
have a Q&A and these living legends, which, they aren't all living anymore. But certainly my idea before COVID was to go into the Atlanta area and show the movie around and have Hank Aaron there with me to talk a little bit more in depth about what he went through and some other guys, or go down to Mobile and get all those guys together that are still with us. And of course, that never happened. So now you
Yeah.
start to think of everybody who's seen the movie, like, "So when are you going to put it out?" I said, "What do you mean put it out?" I mean, I'm not a movie maker by trade or
Right.
anything. So I looked for some distributors. I found Indie Rights Films. We've got a tentative agreement, and I just have to put some finishing touches on some deliverable specifications. Then you should be able to stream the movie for a nominal fee
Okay.
at
Great.
any place you stream movies,
Okay.
Amazon,
Prime,
it'll be all over the place.
Netflix,
And
all that.
look for me. Yeah, look for me on Facebook. I'll create a whole page for it and stuff. It's a short watch. It's around 57 minutes. It's not so intense. It's not a Ken Burns masterpiece, but it's basically
Well, it's the
Mobile.
Eric Clemens masterpiece. No disrespect to
Yeah,
Kim Burns,
Mo,
but it's an
Mo,
Eric Clemens masterpiece.
Mobile Mobile was a baseball factory. It was Oz. It was freaking heaven. It was all this, despite all the ugly that was going on at the time, Jim Crow, all that stuff. These brothers, and some of them are white brothers too, got to get out there and play the game that they love and excel at it. And Hank Aaron and Tommy Aaron and Billy Williams, and Billy might not have been the best player in his family. He
Really?
had
What?
older brothers who could play, but
Wow.
they just didn't get the breaks that
Hmm.
he did. His older brother Franklin comes up in the Pirates organization and plays the outfield with Roberto Clemente and Al Oliver and all those guys. Yeah, he's gonna get a shot. So he
Wow.
never really got a shot to climb out of AAA. But Billy swears that Franklin probably was the better player than he was.
Wow.
but we never got to see him. So all of those little gems, all of those little stories, and Billy, I hadn't seen Billy when I did the thing for 40 years. Uh, we saw each other in the press box at Wrigley Field, and he looked at I said, Billy, how long is it? That was like 70 something, wasn't it? Like 79, 80.
Wow.
He's like, Eric, it was? He said, I sure remember you. I said, hey, we were young and fine back then. Now, so if you don't recognize me, it's okay. He said, well, yeah, we didn't put on a few pounds, Eric, but that's okay. But I have not reached out to Mr. Williams today, but
okay.
Hank was the steady force. They'd always go back to Mobile, and then about every February they'd get together and do BPP, and they'd get themselves ready before they go to spring training. And then Hank would gather everybody together, and they'd listen to Hank, who wasn't very talkative, but Hank would just say, hey, we all got to stay focused. Remember, we represent our communities, blah, 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 blah. And y'all have a good season. I'll see you on the road. And they go and do their thing. And they did this, and they represented Mobile and did Mobile proud.
It's funny. Billy Williams literally just told that story on MLB Network, Major League Baseball Network, an hour ago, and said exactly what you said. 3 weeks before spring training, they would all get together in Mobile for 3 weeks and have hitting sessions. And after that, he said, Hank Aaron said exactly what you said. I'm paraphrasing. Yep. All right, I'll see you down the road. I'll see you around.
Yep.
Wow.
And Frank Bowling would tell me, he'd go and there'd be some other guy and, hey, Mobile. And he turned around and Mobile, who are you? Oh, look, hey, man, you from Mobile too? Oh, yeah, we from Mobile. So they knew where they were from, and they knew what they represented, and they carried a great deal of pride with it. Now, some of the newer guys, I don't know. I know Jake Peavy is from that area, and
really?
Juan Pierre, and some other guys. Josh Donaldson was more toward Florida, but still the Mobile area. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of guys, but I don't know if they even know. A lot of people in Mobile have no idea that all those guys played and cut their teeth right there in their little city. And it was just a fascinating thing. It was really, I had a ball. Spent all my money and money I didn't have, but I had a ball of putting that together. And I hope people get as much joy out of watching it as I did making it.
Yeah, because I'm sure that not just baseball, but just the stories about life and overcoming struggle and racism, virulent racism, and how that they were able to compartmentalize, because people talk about Hank Aaron and how could he do what he did? I mean, just the relenting fear he talked about. I saw some video when he talked about he feared that he would be assassinated between the end of 1973. He finished that year with 713 home runs. Yeah. And the beginning of 1974, where I think it was opening day. I know they played, because I saw these games. I can see it like I see you, Eric. I remember I saw that game because all the networks, they were following Hank Aaron because they knew any moment he'd break the record on NBC.
Every time he came to bat, they would cut in.
So Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek, I believe. Kubek, they had Cincinnati, and the Braves played in Cincinnati. And it was a day game. Hank Aaron hit 714. Right. And then he didn't hit 715 until they went back to Atlanta. And it was a night game, I remember, because I was sitting watching the game with my grandfather. So it was 9:15 in Atlanta. So that was 8:15 in Chicago. So I could still be up, and I would be watching the game with my grandfather. And I remember seeing Hank Aaron, and I was just like jumping up and screaming. And my grandfather was, like my mother said, my grandfather loved Hank Aaron. And I remember, Eric, in real time, as Hank Aaron circled the bases, and these two white dudes, white kids with long hair, ran out there. And for a second, I was like, in my little mind,
and everybody else.
I'm like this, Eric, like, okay, what's about to happen?
Oh, they coming, they gonna get, I can't believe they got on the field. How did they get on the field? And they both patted him on the back, and they're like, oh my God. I know. Now there's another story in the documentary about that moment, but I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to watch the documentary.
Okay, well, I think I know, so maybe I shouldn't tell. Well, let me just see. Maybe you don't want me to tell it, because I've heard the story before, and then it was confirmed today. So I know the FBI had assigned armed bodyguards to protect
Right.
not just Hank Aaron, but his family, because his
right.
wife, Billy, and his children were threatened. So there was a
Right.
brother named Wardell. I think
Yeah.
his name started with a
Yeah.
C. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
I can't think of the name
All right,
either.
so-
It's just a brother that came up to him after he got
Mr.
through
Wardell
having
was his
with the
bodyguard.
binocular case.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So all right, I won't tell the story.
No, it's fine. But though, we don't know how close those two overzealous fans were to being shot.
Yes. Yeah.
And
they talked about
we
that.
We really have to warn. Right. We really
Yeah.
have to warn people. Don't be running up on athletes on
Yes.
the field, because somebody might not have as much discretion
Right.
as he did. And Hank
So-
says he told me I didn't know whether to shoot him or not.
Well, it's funny. So, right, Hank Aaron's bodyguard, this brother, he was a younger brother because Hank was
Yeah.
in his mid-30s at least, I think,
Yeah.
right? So,
yeah.
and I saw the video,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so because Hank told the story. No, it was somebody on the MLB, one of the anchors for MLB.
Yeah.
That Mr. Wardell, the brother, had like a camera case,
Right.
it looked like he was a photographer. He had a camera
Right.
case. He kept a gun inside this camera
Yeah.
case. And when Hank Aaron was circling the bases and when he saw these white kids get on the field, he said that Mr. Wardell opened the case, put his hand on the gun and his finger on the trigger, and was ready, like you
Was
said,
ready to
Eric.
roll.
But when I guess they just patted him on the back and they moved on, he
Right.
said then Mr.
Oh,
Wardell.
can you imagine how horrible that would have been?
Ooh,
Oh,
man,
my God.
Hank Aaron. So you get two white dudes in the deep South, young.
Yep.
They're young, and
Yeah.
Hank Aaron, and then a black man who's his bodyguard, FBI. They've got protection.
It
Shoots
would've
and
been bad.
kills two young white. Oh God! And in seven, it would just been. Oh, Eric, it'd have been bad.
It would have been bad. It would have been bad.
Yeah. So let me
It
talk.
is,
Let's go back to 18 because I know he's giving you so many
Okay.
great stories. But if there's one particular story that really stands out in his youth that you want to share, please do that. But let's talk about. So when he's 18, he gets on a train and he goes to Indianapolis to play for the Indianapolis Clowns. So basically in 1952. So he was only there for 1 year. But do you know? Did Mr. Aaron tell you who replaced him on the Indianapolis Clowns?
He did not. In fact, we didn't talk a whole lot about the Clowns. We talked about him starting, and I did my own research, and I don't know whether it was the guys in Indianapolis, but when they'd have their meal, Hank would always be consistent. He would always get the pork chop sandwich. And so
I didn't know
they
that.
developed a nickname for him, and they called him Pork Chop.
Get out of
Because
here.
Hank would always have the pork chop sandwich everywhere they went. And so he got that nickname. But that was from my own research. Hank, again, I was flabbergasted. Man, I was I had all these questions written down. I totally lost my mind when he actually came in the room. He had his little walker with him, and he's checking me out the whole time. Is this boy crazy or what? But
wow.
but we kind of more started. It was more general, talking about playing the Thompson Mobile and growing up poor and doing those things, and how he was kind of a homeboy. He'd come home all the time and just go fishing. He bought his mother a house later, and she was right on the lake so she could fish, because she and he both loved to fish.
Didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
And these stories, he had a best friend in town named Mr. Withers. I spoke to Mr. Withers today and checked on him to see how he was. And he said, it's tough, Eric. I just talked to him last week and stuff. And I said, I know Mr. Withers.
Was he sick?
Mr. Withers had no idea. I mean, I think it was kind of sudden. Whatever happened to Hank,
He
it
died in
was
his
not
sleep.
really expected.
Good. And I got to,
because within the last week, he was fine.
I'm glad you said that, Eric. So let me jump in on that point. So, ladies and gentlemen, this man met Mr. Aaron, knew him well. It's got a documentary that Mr. Aaron will be the centerpiece of. So let me just go ahead and just go there, Eric, so I can shut some of y'all up with this foolishness. Don't be in the damn barbershop and the hair salons or on the internet spreading these lies and this bull. All right?
Right.
Now, I know, yes, January 5th, Mr. Aaron, along with Andy Young and some other prominent African-American leaders in Atlanta, went to Morehouse and got a COVID-19 vaccine. So don't start with this, see, that's why I ain't gonna get that COVID vaccine because it killed Hank Aaron. Stop with the bullshit. It didn't kill Hank Aaron. Stop it.
Right.
Stop it. Stop. Right. Don't spread it. If I see you, like my grandmother used, if I see you spreading that rumor, I'm gonna snatch a knot in your behind. Yeah. Don't do that. Stop with that. Because I've already, you probably, it's out in the ether. You see, that's what I heard Hank Aaron, January, see, I told you.
And Hank lived a life of dignity. So if he did die of it, we'd know.
Yes,
friends, people close to him one of them I spoke to, didn't mention anything about COVID or anything like that. Again, I had a 91-year-old uncle. And he was at home one day and he laid down and he died.
Yeah, just went to sleep and didn't wake up. Listen,
sometimes
sign me up for that. All right, Lord, when it's time, let me just go to sleep, okay? And then you can just take him with you. That's it. Yep. No family.
And the reports are he died in his sleep. He was, so. And you guys, you got elders in your family. You got people that are in their late 80s and early 90s. Every day, every hour is a gift. Yeah. So you ask them how they're doing, they'll go, well, I'm fine for now. It's all good. I woke up this morning and I had me some breakfast and I'm good. Now, whether I'm going to be here tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning or next Friday, I don't know. But right now I'm here, and I'm sure that's how he felt.
Let's let everybody in on a little secret that doesn't know it. My grandmother taught me this. This is one, and my grandfather, but my grandmother would say all the time, tomorrow's not promised to nobody. They got little graves like they do big graves, she would say. So they got little graves for
you got that right.
And big graves.
You got that right.
Tomorrow's not promised to end none of us. So let's jump on. I want to, so let's go back real quick, and I know you got some great stories. So 18, but let me throw this out here. The reason I was asking you if you knew who replaced Mr. Aaron. So when Mr. Aaron left the Indianapolis Clowns and the Atlanta Braves organization gave him the contract and he went and played for the organization, he was replaced by a teammate named Tony Stone. Now, does Tony Stone ring a bell?
No.
Tony Stone replaced, first of all, I didn't know that when he played for the Indianapolis Clowns, Hank Aaron played not right field, he played second base.
Right.
Tony Stone was a woman.
Wow.
Tony Stone was a black woman.
That's a documentary in itself.
Yes. Wait a minute. Hold on. This rabbit hole gets deeper. Tony Stone on that same Indianapolis Clowns team, Tony Stone had a total of 3 women who played on the that Indianapolis Clowns team.
Wow.
There you go. There you got a new documentary right there.
You got another one to research. Let me start going now.
Tony Stone.
Tony Stone.
Yep.
Okay.
Replaced Hank Aaron at second base for the Indianapolis Clowns. Thank you to Bruce Gage up in Chicago.
There you go.
Negro League baseball aficionado. Told me that story, sent me that text. I couldn't wait to share it with you, Eric. Yes. Yeah, so
I appreciate it. There's so many.
He's going to be on. He'll be on with me Monday. So we're going to do a special.
Okay.
He'll really drill down. I'm sure he's got some great stories because I think he got a chance to meet Mr. Aaron also. He's got some great stories about the time about Hank Aaron when he played that year when he played for the Indianapolis Clowns. Right. So you want to take it from there. What did Mr. Aaron tell you about that time from when he was with the Indianapolis Clowns to when he first broke in and went and played for the Milwaukee Braves? I know you got some great stories. Just for time's sake, give us a couple of them. Yeah.
All the stuff, the thing that really kind of surprised me, took me aback about him. No Willie Mays, don't get me wrong. Willie where's his confidence to this day at almost 90? He probably thinks he could still play center field better than 50% of all the major.
Wait a minute, Eric. He probably could.
He probably could. And I had the pleasure of meeting him once too, and that's another story for another time. But the thing that really took me a little bit aback, Hank will disarm you. He was so humble. He was so decent that you think he was almost like, well, no, it wasn't that. I just got lucky. When it came to baseball, he knew that there was nobody else alive that played the game any better than he did. And he had that confidence every ounce of every inch that he played. And that kind of took me by surprise. I thought he would be more to all shucks. I just worked hard. And oh no, he knew he could play. He knew he belonged. And he wasn't going to hear nobody tell him otherwise. And that kind of took me back. And that side of him, because as you know, many of us back in that day, I'm losing the poet, but we wear the mask. We wore this duality.
Was it? I don't want to make a mistake.
Dunbar. I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But we had this duality, and Hank, while he was friendly and while he was humble and while that, he saw stuff going on, and he knew how to speak up, and he knew how to handle himself when he needed to handle himself and stand up when he needed to stand up. And he metered out advice and or criticism equally. Bernie Carbo, you know that name.
Cincinnati Reds,
played with the Red, and was with the Red Sox when they went up against the Big Red Machine in '75. He's probably the only living guy that can say, I played with Satchel Paige. He played with Satchel Paige in the minor leagues when Satch was ending his career at age 65. And he played with Hank Aaron at the end of his career with the Milwaukee Braves when Hank was 55 or whatever, he was in his 40s. So he says, Hammer, he always called him Hammer. Hammer calls me over and says, boy, you're going to be a really good hitter when you start forgetting about that last at bat. What do you mean, Hammer? I said, well, you can't carry the last at bat up here with you. This is a new at bat. This is the new life. You got to forget that last strikeout and focus on what you need to focus on. When you learn to do that, you're going to be a good hitter. And Bernie Carbo was a pretty good hitter in his time. And those were the kind of things I really remembered. Hank was just the real deal. As I look back now, I wish I would have talked to him for 3 hours and just had these piles of stuff to go back and do another documentary. Yeah. But I didn't. I wanted to respect his time because, I would have picked his brain all night if I could have.
So let me try to do
all the stories out of it.
Let me try to do some rapid fire questions, and then I want you to. Then I want to ask you about the conversations that you hopefully, and I'm sure knowing you, I know you did. Talk about the impact that he had in terms of as a cultural icon when it came to social justice, because he had a quiet confidence, like you said. It was almost aristocratic, the way a regalness, a sense of royalty, but it wasn't an arrogance. It was a real understated, because he was very unpretentious. He seemed to be a very, very genuine, warm, humble man, soft-spoken, but he when he stepped up to that plate and the way he played the game, because he didn't have the flair that Willie Mays had. And I saw it on MLB Network, and I forgot, and I heard this quote or saw it somewhere before, and I think it describes it best. Somebody said, what's the difference? Compare Willie Mays to Hank Aaron. And the quote was, Hank can do everything Willie can do. He just doesn't lose his baseball cap. I thought that was it.
That's a great quote. That's a great analogy.
That was it. Because really, I was a kid and I had a big fro, and I was very fast, and I would run, and sometimes my hat would come off. There would be some plays I would kind of almost, flop, like a flopper in basketball, kind of just Oh, make
Right.
it make it fall off.
Yeah,
Because I was trying
yeah.
to emulate Willie Mays. But did he?
Hey.
So here's the rapid fire stuff. The toughest pitcher he faced, and who outside of himself, who did he think was the greatest baseball player he ever saw?
I'm trying to remember. We did talk about a lot of stuff. I don't know if he put it that way.
Okay.
I know he talked about a turning point. I mean,
Okay.
when I asked him about Satchel, he didn't even talk about Satchel in those terms. As great as Satchel was, and I know
Wow.
they win against you. Now Satchel is 25 years older than these guys.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
when they start coming up, he's already older.
Right.
But, Hank's eyes got big. He said the boy could still bring it. He could still pitch. But one thing he remembered was being beamed in the head
By who?
on a 3-0 count. A young Dodgers pitcher. Not a famous one, not Drysdale or one of those guys, but another guy. I can't remember. I can't recall the name. But he knocked him down and out for a second.
Really?
But back then they just give you the smelling salts.
Right.
And Hank, there was no padding inside the thing,
Yes.
so he got plunked. And obviously, if you're knocked out, you're concussed. So he should have been in protocol for a week before he even saw a field again. But of course, they didn't do that back in the day. And so he said when he finally got up after the smelling salt, he knew he couldn't leave the game.
Wow.
Because he knew with that pressure that the word was going to get around that he was a softie. And he couldn't let nobody think he was a softie.
Wow.
So he was going to stay in that game and play. And I'm sure Jackie Robinson felt that times 10. And I'm sure, other people that felt Larry Doby and others, because I'm sure Hank was getting the same thing. And Cleon Jones talked to me about getting the same thing and people calling you certain names from the stands. And you got to get up there and be calm. I just can't imagine Willie Mays not looking back going, I'm going to shut you up.
You're right.
But we never got into some of those specifics. I'm sure he had his pitchers he struggled against, but I don't remember.
Did he ever mention Bob? Because Bob Gibson is one of my favorite. I know how great Sandy Koufax was, but man, Bob Gibson was.
I think he framed everything in terms of that generation of African Americans knew we were carrying something. We knew we were doing something, and we had to be like Bob Gibson was mean as a rattlesnake. However, he was a pitcher, and you weren't going to come out there and show him up in any way, shape, or form. If you hit a home run the time before, God help you this time, because he was going to knock you down. That was just a given. You're going down. You ready to go down right now? I'm just going to let you know the fastball's coming high and tight. Here it comes. And remember when he and Fergie used to pitch against each other, and the game would be 2 hours and 1 minute?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, they both get the ball and just pitch.
Yes.
And the Cardinals would win 2-1 or 2-0 or 1-0. It was crazy. But anyway, we didn't talk about specifics like that because I was just too awed to even. I don't even think I asked you, Gene. I was so into the growing up Mobile and that part of his development and his quiet confidence. Well, I at times forgot who I was talking to.
Well, let's segue here because I think this could be there's a connection here. Obviously, growing up when he was born in the 30s. In Mobile, Alabama. So, oh my God, the virulent racism, the lynching, and everything that he saw, just the Jim Crow laws and separate everything. And then he really became in a real quiet, but very influential because eventually Mr. Aaron went on to know Coca-Cola felt that he was really done injustice. He didn't get the endorsements that he should have got when he was a player. And I do believe that Coca-Cola got with him and partnered up on some kind of level. I believe he owns some Coca-Cola bottling plants.
Yeah, I think he got into some investments with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I think didn't he have some car dealerships too also?
Yeah, car dealerships.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was into some restaurants. We met at one of his offices, and I could see some pictures of some of the restaurant properties that bore his name as well. So he tried to diversify, because remember now, he didn't really start making money
Late in his career.
really
Yeah, later in his
until very late in his career, and then probably made more money after he got through playing on stuff than he ever did when he was a
Oh
player.
yeah, that's what from everything I've heard, he
Um,
made way more money after he was
yeah,
done.
you know, that's a real
So did he talk to you at
interesting
all? Did
thing.
you all talk about, his impact in terms of the influence that he had just on racial justice and social justice? He's listen. He was speaking out about wanting to be in management, and that you need to have more black people, African Americans, in management and leadership positions in sports back in the late '70s, because the Braves
Yeah,
did in '70. I believe it was they put him in the front office, I think around in '79, and he was a GM for a while and did a good
right.
job. But those teams in the '90s, a lot of those players were people that came up in the farm system that he helped develop. So did he talk to you about just how he, and even late in his life, he was very active in terms of politics and wanting
Yeah,
to see a
he
change?
expressed a lot of concern about where the game was going in terms of young black people, and him trying to make an impact on young black people playing the game. And he didn't. He told me he didn't really. He was disconnected there. He didn't really know why we stopped playing. He couldn't
Well,
identify the machinations
I could
and
tell him.
everything. Or
Well, like I said earlier,
yeah,
if Major League Baseball would have took the millions that they took over to the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and Latin America
right,
and invested that money in those same baseball camps that they have in the
right,
Dominican Republic and in Latin America, and if they had those baseball camps, like I said, on the south side and west side of Chicago and Crenshaw in LA and Brooklyn and the Bronx, or
right,
even in neighborhoods in Atlanta, like Bankhead, then you probably would
right.
have. It was like Major League Baseball after all those greats. They just kind of, maybe they were tired of the black athletes dominating. It was like, good, y'all go play football and basketball, because we tired of
Yeah,
you all dominating this. I don't
yeah,
know, but it's pretty clear to me, Eric, that Major League, the owners in the league, they spend a lot of money. The Dodgers, who I love, outside of the White Sox, is my favorite team.
hmm,
They, to this day, they've got a huge camp in Latin America, I think in the Dominican Republic. And I know
yeah,
they could sign players earlier and give them
yeah,
really cheap contracts and not pay them a lot of money. But they
right.
could have done their part to cultivate talent, especially with the legacy of and the impact that Hank Aaron's and Willie Mays's and Bob Gibson's, Frank Robinson's had on baseball. But that's just, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
That was.
Absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. So he was very concerned about that. And toward the end, we really, I mean, remember that this is, you know, we're seeing a lot of the videos of a lot of young black males being gunned down by
Yes.
police, unarmed people. And he was really concerned about that. He talked about his grandson, and he talked about
Mm.
young men, and he couldn't. Hank was always guarded.
Mm.
You know, he couldn't quite articulate everything he wanted to. I imagine if we'd have gone out to dinner that night, he'd have laid it.
He
He'd have
loosened up.
laid it out a little more plain
Like
for
when
me.
when he told you about that Kenny Holtzman pitch
Right, and he
at
knocked
bat.
the,
I knocked
you
the
know, you
shit
know
out.
what out that ball. Right. He was very concerned, and again, everything about him was quiet,
Yes.
even his career. Everything about him was quiet confidence.
Yes.
And so he did all these things kind of behind the scenes and quietly and confidently. But you didn't really, you're like, I mean, when people think of great plays by great players, you don't think of Hank Aaron making some great defensive play that you
No,
see.
you're right.
Because you know what I'm saying? You see him in Fulton County and you see him hit that ball off Downing, and Bill Buckner, rest his soul, trying to climb the
Yeah.
fence and catch it in left center field. And that's basically what they show you. But this guy was a quiet, confident, solid, 25-time All-Star.
Yeah. 25
And
All-Star
again,
games, 21
and
All-Star seasons.
yeah, and we got to remember that if you played 23 years, 25 years, and you hit 30 homers a year, golly, that's still you're still a little short
Yeah,
of where
right,
Hank is.
and 3,771 hits. Not to mention that. People
I
forget
mean,
about
that
that.
is the quietest record I've ever seen. 3,700 hits,
Almost 38.
2,900
Yeah.
RBIs, still the record. So when people say, well, Hank, well, what do you need to be good? I mean, if somebody is consistent and producing those numbers, if I can put you in the lineup, Geno Jones hitting fourth, I know we're going to get 30 to 45 homers and 100 to 130 RBIs. He'll hit somewhere around 300. He'll steal 15 or 20 bases. He'll win a Gold Glove in left field. What?
Every year.
Every year.
For 20 years.
After year after year after
Yeah,
year
really.
after year after year. How good do you need to be?
Right.
And so, again, but he wasn't boisterous. He wasn't. And so it almost blows by until you open the record books and go, wow, he has those records too? Oh, total bases and
Yes.
RBIs and
All-time leader.
3,700 hit.
Yep, all-time leader in RBIs. Almost 3,800, 3,771 hits. Two-time batting champion.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's really unbelievable. And he's winning batting titles, before you and I are born,
Right.
to give you some perspective.
Right.
And we ain't exactly young.
And led the league in stolen bases one year.
Yes.
60.
Yes. So this dude was as good as he had to be.
Yeah.
He was as good as anybody. Now, if you imagine him playing with Mays, or if he'd stayed with the Indianapolis Clowns for a couple more years, he probably would have developed a little flair, because you had to have it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't about just baseball for the Negro Leaguers. They had to find a way to entertain this crowd, to make you come back and buy a ticket, because, we need to put a show on out here as well. And so I'm sure he would have probably developed a little more flair to his game, but I'm sure he could do all that fancy stuff. Remember, switching sports, they'd say that in Bears practice, when Walter Payton would score a touchdown, this dude was an excellent dancer, and he would put on all kind of dance moves in practice,
Right.
but during the game, he just handed it to the referee.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Hank Aaron had a lot of that in him. And again, just the quiet confidence and the quiet dignity. And I really, really wish I had an opportunity to sit with him without a camera and just talk about the stuff, and all those questions you're asking. Believe me, I would have been right there asking them.
I'm just jealous, and I've never been jealous of anybody. I'm just jealous that I would have loved to have been there with you. But you need to do that with Willie, and when you do, let me be your producer.
Okay, absolutely.
I'm not you producing your own thing. Let me just say, hey, that's my producer. Instead of he's not my groupie and hanger on. He's my producer. He just wants to be in the room
Willie,
and meet Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, Bill Russell. I mean, these guys.
Yeah.
They are gems, and I would love. I tried to reach out to Bill Russell. I'd love to sit down. And talk to Bill Russell about, being arguably the best ever. I mean, he's got the hardware.
It's funny.
He is.
It's funny you mentioned Bill Russell. So the other night, I was channel surfing on NBA TV. They had a documentary that Bill Simmons, and I'm a Lakers fan, so I hate everything Celtics, and I always hated Bill Simmons because I just thought he was a little punk asshole kind of little dude, little nerdy suburban kid. But he's a huge Celtics fan. And that was the main reason I didn't like him. I mean, he was always just Celtics and trashing the Lakers. But he did a documentary, and it was I think it was called Mr. Russell's House or something. It just earlier in the week, I think it was Monday on the King MLK Day, and it was great. He went out to Seattle. So Bill Russell lives in Seattle.
Right.
Because the last NBA team he coached, which I forgot, I didn't even remember, were the Supersonics.
Oh wow,
which is
I'd
now
forgotten that as well.
the
Yeah.
Oklahoma City Thunder for young folks.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
long before Oklahoma City, that team was up in Seattle. Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, Rain
Right.
Man. That's another great documentary. But
Right.
I never saw this doc, and it was great. It was well done, and it was just so relaxed and conversational. And Bill Russell just, they talked about everything, not just what he did on the court, but off the court. And Bill kind of had that same kind of aura that Aaron had. He wasn't the outspoken. So Wilt Chamberlain would be Willie Mays.
Yes.
Hank Aaron would
Absolutely.
be Bill Russell in
Right.
terms of just
Absolutely.
their demeanor and persona.
Right.
Russell just did it quietly, but he did it.
Yeah.
His play.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I think one game 7, he had 30 points and 40 rebounds.
That doesn't even compute. It doesn't make sense.
40 rebounds in one
makes
game.
no sense.
30 points and 40 rebounds. And they didn't even
Makes no sense.
They didn't even keep, because Bill Simmons was talking about, he was mad because they didn't keep block shots as a statistic. I think till the 90s, it was
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So,
But if they did, he'd probably be the all-time leader.
yeah,
By far.
right, with no doubt. So it's funny. So if you get a chance, watch that. So look, in closing, man, because I could do this forever with you. And shout out, thank you, Zoom, for not messing up this great conversation. What was the most profound thing, if there's one story about Mr. Aaron? I know we talked about so many that really stood out for you. One that I think that you think people will really, that it'll really hit them in some kind of way. What would it be? Or even if it was something that you didn't get on camera, just something, a story that he told you.
I think it was something that he did say on camera, and that I used. And again, he was so decent, he was so dignified, he was so humble and quiet. He told me, and I was again a little shocked, that I didn't know I had a pipeline to the big leagues. I never knew any of that. I mean, this dude, some scout had to look at him and go, whoa, this dude is nice. Sign him now. Get him up here now. But Hank had no idea. Hank was just playing ball and, hey. But there was always that underlying thing, like he said. Nobody could play the game any better than me. Now that sounds like something Willie Mays would say. Yes. That's Hank Aaron. I knew, think about that, young people. I knew that nobody, not Babe, not
Willie,
Satchel, not Willie,
Oscar Charlton,
nobody could play the game any better than me. Let that marinate for a minute.
And he actually told you that. He looked in your eyes and told you that.
Nobody could play the game any better than I could.
And then he got that on camera?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. I can't wait to see this. Wow.
So he was extremely confident. He never wavered in his belief that he could play the game and play it with the best that ever played it, which is why he played it with the best that ever played it and was one of the best that ever played it. So that declaration was made already. And when you want to go after something, make that declaration.
Wow.
Work, declare, and the universe opens doors.
Right.
And that, I was shocked when Hank Aaron said something like that to me. I thought he would say something like, oh, shucks, I'm just blessed and lucky and But he knew he was special.
And you said something, and I want for like all the young people that's watching and even not so young, he knew how great he was, but he also had the work ethic. I teach my daughters, I said, when you got, because both of my daughters are super, super talented, and the baby girl is, just off the chain, but and both of my daughters are. I said, listen, when God has blessed you and anointed you with rare gift and talent, and if you have the work ethic to match that, then you're unstoppable. You're a legend. You're Kareem, you're Hank Aaron, you're Willie Mays, you're Beyonce, you're Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris. Whoever you think about it, Maya Angelou, Oprah Winfrey. We could go on and name names.
And
Serena Williams.
And Gene, normally, it's one of the first questions I ask an iconic athlete is, when did you know? When did you know you were a little different than those other guys? That you were somebody, you kept getting hits. You kept getting hits. You kept banging the wall, and other people would struggle, they go in the slump, and you batting 340. It's got to click in there somewhere where wow, I'm pretty good at this.
What did he say?
I'm better than most. No, I didn't. I was so odd that I didn't ask that question. And I've asked it of Bo Jackson. I've asked it of, every iconic athlete I've ever met. And I didn't ask it of him because I was so smitten.
Well, call Billy Williams. Billy probably knows. Billy,
he probably does.
Or you can say, Billy, when did y'all know that this dude was different?
When did you know? And I think Billy would say, we just kept working hard.
Yeah.
I know that they knew they could play, but I don't think they knew what impact they were having until later. Oh, we did that?
Yeah.
Him and Willie McCovey and Hank Aaron hit 1,702 career home runs together.
Wow.
When you added their home runs. That's the year Mobile, Alabama was founded, right? 1702.
Was it really?
How ironic is that? Yeah.
No kidding. Wow. So listen, man, I can't wait to see this documentary. So listen, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So I want you to make me a promise, and we family, alumni on camera. When you get ready to when you release the documentary, and when it's going to be able for the public, I know you're going to do press. You got to promise me, holla at your boy. I want you to come back. You'll have the whole episode will be dedicated to this documentary.
Absolutely.
But come on back so we can talk about it even more and make sure that we let everybody know that they can go out and stream it and watch it, because I can't wait myself. So what's the name of it again?
The name of it is From Tops to the Top. A slice of Mobile's baseball story.
I love that title.
Mobile's vast baseball story is vast, but I took a slice out of it and kind of focused on the African American community and Jim Crow and this factory of guys that kept coming out of Mobile and coming right behind first Satchel, then Hank and Willie and Billy and Cleon and Tommy and Amos and Ozzie. And these people just come in, and it's amazing, and how the community got involved and some other things happened. So this confluence of circumstances that create this factory, which I worked in for 3 years and barely knew. So, I've admitted on several occasions on your show that I was a poor journalist. That's okay.
No. Listen, you weren't poor. It was right on time. That's all. It took a while. This history, it was evolving in real time, man.
I remember mentioning to my wife the same things. He said, Eric, I don't think anybody's done a story on that. I said, get out of here. I know there's probably been several documentaries done by now on that Mobile baseball factory. Dude, there was none.
Wow.
There's been a couple books about the history of Mobile baseball where everybody's lumped in, but there's never been a story about that faction, that slice that produced there's some talented dudes. Amos Otis could play. Cleon could play. Tommy Agee could play.
Amos Otis was an all-star for the
Tommy Aaron could hit. He was just behind his big brother.
Yeah.
So he never really got a chance to really show that what a great player he could have been.
Right.
But, dude, all this talent in one place, dude, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
E, you about to get a check because, man, when this documentary hits, dude, you about to get a big... you might get that Mega Millions check that somebody in Maryland. I'm just telling you.
I take 10%.
Hey, I'm just telling you, man. You about to get a check, bro. You about to get a few checks. I'm telling you that.
I am so happy to have been involved and so happy to be on your show. And we'll definitely let you know when everything is said and done and it's released for everybody to see. You'll be one of the first I talk to.
From tops to the top, right?
Yep.
From
tops to the top.
Wow.
Took that little poor kids game and turned it into major league success, and they all swear by it, which is why I put it in the title.
I got to ask you, so how did you come up with the title, or who came up with the title?
I came up with the title after fooling around with some other titles, and then I said, well, wait, they all swear by this Tops game. I mean, they swear by it.
Yeah.
They don't just believe in it. They swear by it. They swear that it developed their hand-eye and helped them become the great major league hitters that they were. And none of them was a slouch by any stretch.
No.
Except, by Ozzie. But Ozzie left at 6. He hadn't even got the Tops thing going yet.
If he'd have stayed another 6-7 years, then
if he'd have stayed in Mobile, he probably would have been, a much better hitter. But he a Hall of Famer too. So, and I said, well, from Tops, and they all made it to the top. They made it to the big show.
I love it.
How many baseball players come and never get to the show? They stop at AAA or they can't quite break in. But these guys made it all the way.
Right.
And did Mobile proud, and basically a whole city.
Right. And did just make it.
Doesn't really know.
Did just make it where iconic, legendary, all-stars.
Yeah.
Some of the.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you could easily argue that every one of those Hall of Famers is among the best that ever played their position.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you take, well, obviously Hank.
Hank.
But Satchel
Ozzie,
Paige.
Satchel. Oh,
Ozzie. Billy Williams, definitely one of the best hitting and all-around outfielders to ever play.
Yep. McCovey.
426 home runs. Willie McCovey, 521 home runs. Stretch, really made the stretch something. I ain't never seen nobody stretch like that.
Yeah,
Willie would get out there, man, and he'd stretch, and I'd go like, whoa.
That was his nickname.
This dude.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
Stretch McCovey.
Right.
That was
Stretch,
his nickname.
Yeah. He would just literally scare me. And when he looked down at me at the Hall of Fame and said, I already said what I need to say at the speech, I'm like going.
Yeah, because unlike Hank, Willie was, 6'4", they said. He was 6'4".
Yeah.
So he's a big
All
dude.
of it.
You say all of it?
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, man.
Well, Eric Clemens, man, love and respect, brother. I can't thank you enough. I've enjoyed this. Man, I'm going to let you enjoy your evening. I thank your wife, thank the missus, and I apologize on a Friday evening.
No apologies necessary, brother. We good.
She's like, you ain't through talking to that fool. Every time you and Geno get to talking.
You are one of a few of my friends that I got to put aside an hour and a half, 2 hours for whenever we talk, because that's just the way it is.
I love you, brother. Thank you, man.
I love you too,
so
man.
much, man. All right, so be sure to let us know as soon as you get a
Sure
release
will.
date. It would be great if it could come out next month in February. But for me, Black History is every day, every month. It ain't just February. So
right.
Good deal.
I'm looking for it, and I if things go as planned, it should be right on time, right in there.
Good. And you
had a few hiccups with COVID and everything, but we should be on schedule for that. And
this needs to be at the Cannes Film Festival, Sundance, all of them. So we're gonna speak there to existence.
Definitely gonna be looking to get it as much publicity as possible,
especially
I'm
now.
just blessed to have met him. Yeah.
But think about how timing. It's amazing how the universe works. The timing. Unfortunately, that we lost Brother Aaron, but you had no idea when you did this. You had no idea. But that's how the universe works.
And we think they're going to be here forever.
Yes.
You think, oh, I'm going to call Hank tomorrow. And it's just not. It's not promised.
Well,
so
thank God that you got this history documented so we can see it. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, brother. Have a great weekend,
right, brother.
man. Thank you, man. That's
Take
Eric
care.
Clemens, ladies and gentlemen.
All right,
That's
peace.
my dude right there. Man, boy, I'm telling you. Whew, what can I say? Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show right here on YouTube. If you'd like to be a sponsor, I'd be honored to have you as a sponsor. If you want to advertise, I'd be honored to have you to advertise on my show. Just leave me an email at my Gmail, Geno Jones Show. Geno Jones Show. That's how you spell it, all one word, at Gmail. Mother, I love you. I know you're watching this show. Shout out to Markel Bailey, KLB Cutting, my hairstylist, my wardrobe consultant, Mr. Bruce Gage up in Chicago, who will be my guest Monday. We'll talk more about the Negro Leagues, the Negro Baseball Leagues. And in closing, Mr. Aaron, rest in peace, rest in power, rest in paradise. This was really personal for me. Shout out to my grandfather, rest in power, rest in paradise, and rest in peace to Conway Jones. The wisest, most influential man in my life, and the wisest person I ever knew. My grandfather introduced me to the game of baseball around 8 years old or so. And every summer, my grandfather, he was retired, and he would take me to see baseball games. And he would take the whole neighborhood. It was one day, there was about 15 kids, and this little short black man who was at the time was probably in his 70s, late 70s, sometime early 80s. He lived to be 94, so he was probably in his 80s. And he was taking these young black kids, getting them off the streets. So they wouldn't get involved in gangs and get in trouble and breaking into houses or cars potentially. But he took them to baseball games, and then we would come back and we had our helmets and gloves, and we would go play baseball, and we'd play from sun up to sundown. And Hank Aaron was one of my grandfather's favorite players. My mother reminded me that. I don't know, he may even loved Hank Aaron even more than Willie Mays. I know he loved both of them. I love Willie Mays. Willie was my idol, and I wore 24 and played center field for every team that I played for because I wanted to be Willie Mays. And so this is really personal, because when I heard about Hank Aaron passing, I thought about my grandfather, and I thought about all the summers for years after years. Man, this probably went on until I was maybe a sophomore in high school, maybe a junior in high school. From the time I can't even remember every summer. One year I saw every team in the major leagues, because you had two professional teams, the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs in Chicago. One summer I got to see every team in the major leagues at least one time. I remember seeing Hank Aaron play later in his career. We're talking about in the 70s when I was a kid. He retired, I think, around 75. So many great players. I think Bob Gibson. I definitely saw him on TV. I know I saw Willie Mays on TV a whole lot. Maybe as a kid, he may have taken me to one game when I was a real little kid to see Willie Mays play. Maybe, probably, I don't know. When I was, like I said, 7, 8, somewhere around there. So also, this is a tribute also to my late grandfather, Conway Jones. So Mr. Aaron, thank you for being not just the athlete that you were, but thank you for being the man that you were, the quiet confidence, the social justice warrior, and what you've done for the community, the philanthropist that you were. And I'm going to talk about that more in the future. You've done a lot for a lot of people, and you've done a lot for the black community financially. You created jobs. You have been a mentor, and you have given wisdom about life, business, and sports to so many people. So thank you. Thank you for the memories, and thank you for the joy and the memories that you brought to me and my grandfather that helped create these wonderful, magical moments that a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid could have and spend with his grandfather. It's very special. So thank you. Rest in power, Hank Aaron, Henry Louis Aaron, and prayers out to Mrs. Aaron, Mrs. Billy Aaron, and to all of his family, his sons and daughters. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be back Monday, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 out in Los Angeles. I think Mobile's on East. Yeah, they're on Eastern time, so it'll be 6:30 in Mobile, Alabama, the home of Henry Louis Aaron, Hank Aaron, a.k.a. The Hammer, number 44. Have a great weekend. God bless. I love you. I really do. Please go binge watch all the past episodes right here on my YouTube channel, Geno Jones. I'll see you next time.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.